about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. So no spoilers. I finally finished the season finale of Stranger Things, right? The fifth installment of that, of Stranger Things, which has been going on now since, 2017? And I didn't think it was as bad as everybody was saying it was. I mean, there was so much criticism about it and how, it was done. They shouldn't have done this. And it was too long. I liked a good part of it. I didn't think it was that bad. And for those of you who aren't too familiar with Stranger Things, it was a very cool concept where you have a bunch of kids. It kind of brings you back to the 80s. It's set in the 80s with the Dungeons and Dragons. And you have these kids that are not, model, high school musical, gorgeous. These are just basic kids that would have been in the, dork category in school, which I definitely was president of. And where they weren't the popular kids, they weren't the jocks, but they get involved in this supernatural issue that ends up taking over Hawkins, where they live, the city. And the trials and tribulations of that and a lot of the sci-fi type stuff confused a lot of people. Sometimes the story was just not all there, but it was cool and it was different. And it came at a good time when we had Game of Thrones. And you had Game of Thrones with that mythical sort of ambiance and the dragons and all that. And so Stranger Things was technically modern day compared to Game of Thrones, even though it was in the 80s. But it had its own mystical type aspect to it. And so the final season, where after each season you think they made headway and it was over, but then there was another season. And so a lot of people are saying, you know what, they're just teasing us. There's going to be another season. If you are any sort of director or producer or writer of a show, you always want to leave that where there's that little bit more room. And look at what they've done to Downton Abbey. They're still able to make money on the series. Game of Thrones, they're now doing prequels. So I mean, if somebody, has a hit and they're making money, and Stranger Things brought, the Netflix a lot of money, if you're smart, you kind of leave that little bit of wiggle room in case there is going to be a follow-up story or even a prequel. Although I don't know if they're going to be doing a prequel because they really kind of hit that already in the show. But what I really liked about it is, they actually put some work into this. I could tell when a movie or a TV show was done half-assed. You could just tell. The jokes aren't good. The writing isn't good. They're throwing a bunch of CGI there. I don't think so. I think they put a lot of thought. I think it took them 2 years to do the season finale. And they really tried to wrap up and tie up loose ends. They had the personal conflicts, the love interest, the people dealing with, teenagers dealing with their inner identity and sexual orientation. And so they had enough of the depth, shall we say, of the characters and all that. Was there a lot of crying? Yeah. Was there a lot of overacting? My issue with it is you have these kids that are D&D players, which are really, really cool, end up turning into commandos. This isn't Teenage Ninja or Mutant Ninja Turtle. I mean, they did take it a little too far. But for those of us who are not 15 or 12 or 8, you have to appreciate, for the younger generation, this was pretty good. It spanned, a couple generations because the series has been out for so long. But I think there's a lot we could learn from this. If you're going to do a show, because right now there's a dearth of really, really good quality entertainment. It's starting to get back. We're starting to see, good writers and I mean, hopefully it's not all AI, but we're starting to see some more work put into things. I really can't stand now watching Marvel movies because what turned into a good story and comedy and depth of a character now is just a whole bunch of, I don't know, CGI and AI. It ruins it for me. But I like to see work put in, and it's interesting because I'm middle aged, and I remember seeing my parents watch old movies. And I'm like, well, it's black and white. I mean, I want to watch Back to the Future. I want to watch Die Hard. I want to watch Terminator. And so I noticed that I'm going back to now older. I'm watching older movies going, damn, that was some good quality stuff. If I want to see quality, I'm going back to older movies. But what I do like about Stranger Things, for those of you who are of the 80s, like my generation, I'm Gen X, Stranger Things had some Terminator in there. I don't want to spoil it for you, but you have some Terminator, you have some Jurassic Park, you have some Back to the Future, because every time I see that Universal Studios Town Square, it just brings Back to the Future. So it really draws, and then of course they had Prince and music and of the 80s. So for those of us that really did like the 80s, if you could capture the good memories of the 80s that we had, it's worth watching. But I think it is a little over confusing. I think they overdo it. I think I don't think it had to be a 2-hour season finale. I don't think actually it even had to go on 5 full seasons. I think they really could have shortened the story. And it's not bad. But moving forward, one thing though that I was kind of a little shocked by is this is a show for kids. The Stranger Things really appealed to kids, and it had a lot of gore. It had a lot of blood, beheading. I mean, and so, I mean, to me, it would be more of a rated R. And so is it that kids these days need blood and guts? Because it was obviously for kids. That's where this all started, where these kids end up, dealing with all this and becoming heroes. And yeah, the kids grew up, but kids are watching this, and there's a lot of that. And I know for me, Gremlins, I remember when Gremlins came out in the 80s, I really wanted to watch that. And I think they rated it originally like PG. And then after the microwave scene, parents were ticked because they thought it was just about cute little gremlins, and they didn't realize it was going to be a horror movie with gremlin guts. So I don't know. I liked it. I don't think it was as bad as everybody said. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away. We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So who was Renee Nicole Good? The mother of 3 who we were told was shot by an ICE agent after she was veering her car towards him or towards officers. And, this has caused now, a divide again, the divide across America, riots now in Minneapolis. And we're being told by the New York Post that she was she actually trained and was part of a group of activists known as anti-ICE warriors. Now, she looks like she's in a mommy mobile, a minivan. And in the video, we're still waiting for the full context. But what we see are agents, in full gear, looking like they're part of an operation, in the middle of an operation, and we see her get accosted and there's some exchange. Then we see her, when they tell her to get out of the car, back up and then gun the vehicle forward. And then of the shots that hit her, you see at least one that happened dead center of the windshield, suggesting that the shooter wasn't from the side, it was from the front. Meaning, when she was gunning the vehicle, it was towards somebody who had a split second to decide what to do and how to prevent not only his mortality, but somebody else's. And so what are these anti-ICE warriors? According to New York Post, they're a group of activists who work to document and resist the federal immigration crackdown in Minnesota. That's according to the New York Post. And Good is not a longtime Minneapolis resident. She moved to the city last year. We're being told that she connected with anti-ICE activists through her son's charter school, which apparently is a woke charter school. And they boast, this according to New York Post, social justice first, prioritizes involving kids in political and social activism. Now, that is a story in and of itself. You have a 6-year-old kid who needs to learn how to read, write, learn how to, integrate with kids, learn how to be physically active, nutrition, other things. The school is teaching 6-year-olds how to do political and social activism. I mean, that needs to be, if somebody told me, there's a school that makes kids, Republican or makes kids Democrat, I would be like, what? You promote being American. What? I don't want any, what are we doing to these kids? So a mom whose child attends a school said that Renee Nicole Good was a warrior, and she died doing what was right, nearly ramming officers with a vehicle. She said, I know she did the right thing. I watched a video plenty of times, but I also know in my heart the woman she was doing everything right. Her wife, Rebecca, the deceased wife's Rebecca, we were raising a boy together. It was in, from what we understand, an activist-heavy neighborhood of South Minneapolis. And there's, a lot of discussions where this was something that she really entrenched in and submerged herself in. And so she wanted to be an activist. And she's going to be now probably hailed a hero on the liberal side of things. But I'm kind of shocked that we have kids in schools where, according to this Southside Family Charter School, we're being told that is unabashedly dedicated to social justice education. This is according to co-founder Susie Oppenheim. And so Good became involved in something called ICE Watch, a coalition of activists dedicated to disrupting ICE raids in the city. Now, some people say, is this Antifa? Is this, I don't know. I'm sure there's tons of different groups, but it's not uncommon to have the anti-establishment, anti-police, you always get these groups, but they're actually building to a degree where they think they are doing good for society. And, if you ask people in Minneapolis, do they want criminals, sex traffickers, pedophiles, criminals that came from other countries out? They say yes. So then what are these warriors doing? Is it just to cause mayhem? They got nothing better to do? I mean, don't you have a son to raise and teach? And I get, you want to stand up for what you believe is right. And if you believe that criminals who got here illegally have a right to stay here, you have every right in America to protest that. What you don't have a right to do is to put people's lives at jeopardy, to obstruct of a federal operation, to use your vehicle as a weapon. You're not allowed, allegedly. That you can't do. And so, what's she teaching her son? And apparently people are trying to dox these agents. And look at what these agents are going through. Getting assaulted, screamed at, things thrown at them. And they're just trying to do their job to make the city safe. Now people ask, well, then Trump should say, then fine. Let Minneapolis be engulfed by criminals and whoever's in there. Let them. The problem is the activists are not speaking for the majority. It looks like, the mayor and everybody wants to make it look like that 99.9999% of the city you know, is rejecting the current president and rejecting, removing criminal elements out of the city. But the job of the president is to make sure that everybody has a chance to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, being free, being safe, even if your neighborhood is being taken over by activists. And so he can't just say, fine. If this is what you want, like look in Chicago, people being murdered every day. I mean, it is the job of the governor. It is the job of the mayor to make sure that their cities are safe. And by the way, one thing that's really, really interesting is if Jacob Frey and the mayor of Minneapolis and everybody else involved is claiming that their city is unsafe because ICE is there, and that ICE is what's causing all the mayhem. Wouldn't they say, guys, protest peacefully in designated areas? If they're really worried about safety, then wouldn't they cooperate with getting the criminals out? Wouldn't they say, look, if there is an operation going on, there might be guns blazing from all sides. Stay away from those areas. Instead, it's a promotion and it's an encouragement for people to continue the activism. Why? Oh, because there's an election coming up. If they could show the videos of people fighting and throwing snowballs and looking like they don't like ICE, they could make it look like the whole world is anti-ICE. When you have individuals whose daughters have been raped and trafficked and killed and sons murdered and people, struggling with what happened after the Biden years, they need our government to do its job. And we knew this would happen. Now, the reason why we were just moaning and groaning when we saw the border is we knew that there were wolves in sheep's clothing. Media would show the moms and the babies and the abuelas, and which was really nice to see, they were finding refuge in America. But how many of those individuals, were concealing or who was trying to pretend they were with those families that were actually infiltrating? And boy, did we get criminals in. Yesterday there was all this talk that ICE shot 2 more people. ICE shot 2 more innocent civilians in Portland, Oregon, and it was all over the place. Well, the Department of Homeland Security has said that the suspect was Luis David Nico Moncada and Yorlenes Bates Beth Zambrano Contreras, who are criminal illegal aliens from Venezuela. Moncada is a suspected Tren de Aragua gang member. Zambrano Contreras is allegedly associated with Tren de Aragua prostitution ring and was involved with the prior shooting in Portland. So, if this is, if these are the individuals that ICE, is detaining, and I don't understand why the activists want to impede that. Just probably to, make more mayhem. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOCDALI. So, doctors have been going back and forth with, do we need to treat all cancers? I'm on the side of, oh, hell yeah. Oh, man, nuke the sucker. You go after the cancer with all you've got. But there's other doctors and public health experts going, you know what? Not all cancer has to be treated. And I'm of a different generation of doctors in the training. And I have seen cancer that you thought was gone, you thought wouldn't have been much of an issue, ends up coming back with full vengeance. I mean, look at what happened with Suzanne Summers and Olivia Newton-John. And so I don't fear cancer, because 1 in 2 people get some sort of cancer, whether it's a simple skin cancer to something more serious. But cancer, happens to a good number of us. I don't fear getting that because I know it can be a part of life. But what I fear is somebody saying, whoa, you knew you had this? You could have done something about it and you didn't? Well, where this discussion comes from is we've had individuals with very slow-growing cancers. And these slow-growing cancers have been studied and have been found that they might not actually cause your mortality. And so if they're not going to kill you, are the treatments for that cancer worse than letting the cancer continue to grow and smolder? And so Fox News has an article saying not all cancers should be treated right away. And they bring up prostate cancer, thyroid cancer. And so people are debating whether slow-growing tumors, do they need aggressive treatment, surgery, radiation, chemo, because there are side effects. And so according to Dr. Mark Siegel, he says the fact that so many cancers will never kill you is not a justification for not knowing, because there is still plenty of room for watchful waiting, as well as interventions that may improve quality of life, even if they don't extend life. So he brings up a point that I want to bring up is when people hear these headlines that not all cancers need to be treated right away, according to medical experts, then you'll have people listening, going and reading this, going, oh, I don't have to do my colonoscopy. I don't have to go and get a physical. I don't have to go to the doctor. Because now if they find the cancer, it's worse for them to aggressively treat. I do not want that thinking. We do not need to give patients any more excuses to not get exams done. And I am just blown away by patients calling up telemedicine going, what do you think of this mole? And it looks like melanoma. And I'm like, what did your doctor think at your last physical? Oh, I haven't had a physical since COVID. COVID was 6 years ago. You mean you could have had skin cancer grow all this time? I'm assuming it popped up after, but what? And so I would really take this article with a grain of salt. They're not wrong in that not everybody needs a prostatectomy if they have prostate cancer. Not everybody needs very aggressive radiation therapy if they have prostate cancer. Not everybody needs a colectomy if they have colon cancer. Not everybody however, I'm not good enough. And I don't think the average cancer specialist can 100% say that cancer, which is chaotic, will be okay in this particular situation. And this is why. And I know there's urologists that'll say, Dr. Dahlia, prostate cancer could grow slow. We don't always have to address the prostate cancer. But here's my thing. It's not just all about the cancer. One thing that nobody is talking about is if you have cancer, there's other things. The body knows that there's the cancer. It's a distraction. It's utilizing vital resources that you need to deal with other things. I've heard from patients where they say, I don't understand. My mom was in remission. Cancer was fine. They weren't on any immunosuppressant drugs. And then all of a sudden, pneumonia killed her. How did she survive the cancer, but she didn't survive the pneumonia? Well, is there a distraction mechanism? Is it that your body is trying so hard to keep cancer cells at bay that it's overworked, that it's not able to do all the other things it needs to do? And I get that a lot of prostate cancer, we observe, we watch, we do the Gleason scores to look at, how prostate cells grow and how abnormal they are when we see you. And we talked about the Gleason score. Joe Biden ends up having a Gleason score of 9? So it progressed pretty quickly and it metastasized. Well, if prostate cancer is so predictable and so slow growing, why is our former commander-in-chief now battling stage 4 prostate cancer? Ductal carcinoma in situ, stage 0 breast cancer. It's non-invasive, has abnormal cells lining the breast milk ducts. In situ is Latin for original place, like in place. And so there was a study back in 2024 by the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, found that active monitoring for this resulted in similar quality of life, mental health, symptom progression over a 2-year period compared to standard surgical approach. Meaning that rather than doing the operation, they can do follow-up surveillance, watching. See, for me, I'm like, get it out. Get it out. And I understand it's only stage 0. But for me, the worry, the constant, okay, is it growing? Is it, I would, and maybe that's just me and my generation. I don't want to kick the can down the road. I don't want to procrastinate. I want to address it. Certain lymphomas, like non-Hodgkin's, some of them could be grow and slowly spreading, but I've seen lymphomas which all of a sudden make a complete turn and become aggressive. Chronic lymphocytic leukemia is another one that could be slow. Not everybody necessarily needs to go through aggressive treatment for that. But you do need to watch it. You do need to. And so here's the thing. They're also bringing up low-grade endometrial cancer. Endometrial cancer, I've seen people die of that, the lining of the uterus. And so I understand that there might be some slow, low grade, but who's watching? You can make an argument that some kidney cancer, that some thyroid cancer, that some prostate cancer, some endometrial cancer, some breast cancers could be surveyed and watched. But what is implied in that is you have an active team surveilling you. Does the average patient go to the doctor, go to their nurse practitioner, PA? Is the average patient getting ultrasounded, getting mammogram, getting scanned? And then look at our Obamacare issues. If your insurance keeps changing or your doctor leaves, because still, even with Obamacare, people are losing their doctors left and right. Who's taking over and doing that watching and surveillance? So I get we don't have to surgically, radically remove everything. You don't have to have radical mastectomies for low-grade breast cancers. I get that. You don't have to have radical prostatectomies and completely lose your ability in some with erectile dysfunction. We don't want your life ruined. But you're assuming that you have a team of medical providers that will never change, that patient will be able to access for the next 10 to 20 years on regular bases. And I fear that many of these individuals aren't going to follow up or have the ability to follow up like they need to. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So I'm really glad that researchers are still studying these COVID-19 vaccines and these mRNA vaccines. Even though the mRNA technology has been out for a while, the COVID vaccines were created and prepared fairly quickly during the chaos of COVID. And many individuals who were mandated to get it were kind of questioning, do we know enough about it? How do I know it won't cause myocarditis or cancer or something else? And politics at the time under Biden was you got to get your shot. They were singing Hamilton, this is your shot. And it was, people got fired and a pregnant woman in her third trimester just trying to wait tables in Brooklyn gets fired for not getting the COVID vaccine. She's like, I just, I got to protect the baby. I just don't know if this is the safest thing to do. Well, luckily there are researchers that are still looking at the COVID vaccine. But apparently we're being told that a site that had published an article looking at possible cancer link got hacked. So Daily Mail is reporting that there was a study that appeared in the peer-reviewed journal OncoTarget on January 3rd. This was from cancer researchers at Tufts University in Boston and Brown University in Rhode Island. The researchers were looking at cancer links to the COVID-19 vaccine. They looked at 69 previously published studies and case reports from around the world, identifying 333 instances in which cancer was newly diagnosed or rapidly worsened within a few weeks following the COVID vaccination. Yet, apparently, there was a cyber attack that hit the website, so the study was offline. I wonder who committed this cyber attack. So the review looked at studies from 2020 to 2025. It included reports, according to Daily Mail, from 27 countries: the U.S., Japan, China, Italy, Spain, South Korea. No single country dominated, suggesting that the observed patterns were reported globally, which is interesting because different countries gave different vaccines. So that is interesting to know. UK was using more of the, although they didn't study the UK, but AstraZeneca, whereas we didn't really do the AstraZeneca shot here. We did the Johnson & Johnson for a little bit, but we mostly did Pfizer and Moderna. We know Israel did Pfizer shots predominantly, but the different countries, not everybody used the same brand. But the authors emphasized that they found that the patterns don't necessarily establish a direct link between vaccination and cancer, but that it was it could be observational or not necessarily cause and effect. And so days after the publication, OncoTarget's website became attacked. They had a bad gateway error. And the Journal reported the incident to the FBI, noting disruptions to its online operations. Dr. Waqif El-Diri of Brown University expressed concern that the attack disrupted access to newly published research. He said censorship is alive and well in the U.S., and it has come into medicine in a big, awful way. And so I'm looking at some of the pictures that Daily Mail was able to get from the study. And they do look, odd, irregular, hyperpigmented. Are they melanomas? Are they another type of, is it a vascular tumor? I can't say. And I haven't been able to see the study myself. But the FBI neither confirms nor denies the existence of a specific investigation into a cyber attack on OncoTarget. So the, OncoTarget noted disruptions. And so obviously this is something that needs to be addressed because their IT person says, it's not us. Your system should be working. The censorship of scientific press is concerning. So El-Diri shared a message saying that this censorship is keeping important published information about COVID infection, COVID vaccines, and cancer signals from reaching the scientific community and beyond. And so they're right about that. That's concerning. So where were some of these cancers? Well, we're being told that many of these cases involve tumors near the injection sites in the arm. Now, they're not saying that the COVID vaccines caused it, but they said that there's been a lot of case reports, 333, instances where there was some sort of abnormal cancerous growth near the site. One question I have is, we're only hearing about this now? If these tumors rapidly grew and the COVID vaccine got launched and started to be delivered December of 2020 and January 2021, it's 5 years later and we're only hearing about this now? And then when so if the the journal site was hacked, how long has this hacking been going on with other journals? I mean, unless a scientist gets some sort of attention from any of the big media companies, I mean, they could go on social media, they could try to get the word out that way. But if nobody's covering it, nobody hears about it. Now, I'm not saying that the COVID vaccine, causes tumors and causes cancer. But as I've always said, it's different strokes for different folks. For some people, that COVID vaccine saved their life. And I'm very grateful we have the vaccines. But for others, it may be messing them up. It may be causing myocarditis, inflammation of their heart. It might be causing ITP, like we saw with that OB, who early on in the COVID vaccine rollout ended up losing his platelets and then ended up hemorrhaging in his brain after getting the COVID vaccine. And his family said he still would have gotten the vaccine, wouldn't have done it differently. I doubt that, but he wanted to support the cause. But for some people, the vaccine hurt them. For many people, it helped. Why can't we just be honest about that and just talk about that? And then if somebody did get a tumor from the COVID vaccine, can't we talk about that? There was one review of 300,000 people in Italy, another one examining 8.4 million people in South Korea, and they uncovered higher cancer rates of thyroid, colon, lung, breast, and prostate cancers among vaccinated individuals. Now, somebody could also say, but Dr. Dahlia, COVID was rampant. Is COVID oncogenic? It can be. I'm waiting to see the studies of that. I mean, most of us were still exposed to COVID despite getting vaccinated. So was it that COVID was wreaking havoc and affecting our ability to fight cancer. They said adults younger than 65 appeared to have a higher risk of developing thyroid and breast cancers after vaccination, while seniors over 75 had a higher risk of prostate cancer. So if these studies exist, and they're suggesting that there might be a link, or we need to can we look at this, please? Before we go after RFK Jr., saying to not globally recommend or universally recommend the shot in a healthy 6-month-old. And what I really truly believe with any of these vaccines is they help the majority of the population, but there are some individuals where they hurt. And we have to decide in medicine, do the benefits outweigh the risks? Do we recommend universally despite knowing that some people could get hurt? Or do we let it be patient choice and say, look, more people have been saved by these vaccines than hurt, but this is your body. And you need to decide if this is what you need. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.